Hey, hello everyone. It's Gordon Causey again, and we're in the very early morning hours Eastern Standard Time, where I am, Toronto area. Well, I don't like to consider my area to be Toronto area, but I have a picture of it back there. It's 4:42 a.m. My location, Little Northumberland County, Ontario, about an hour and a half east of Toronto. On this, the 20th day of April, 2024. And Candy is always here. Yeah. Oh, you're always the same. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. Sit, shake it off, lay down. Okay, good job. Get lost. Uh, Dogs are wonderful. They're a great distraction. Very quickly, if you want to hit like, share, subscribe, you know all that. Just going to get right into it. I'll try and keep this short. If you're trying to keep up with what's going on between Iran and Israel, it is difficult. It is challenging. I did a video yesterday. Within an hour or two, maybe three at most, of Israel's response, where they apparently, reportedly attacked an Air Force base in Iran. I know a little bit more than I did yesterday. I'll now pronounce the name of the city, Isfahan. That's probably reasonably close. And learn that Isfahan this is part of a metropolitan region in Iran that is somewhere around the fourth largest city in Iran. It's 2+ million people anyway, so it's a large urban center. And there's an Air Force base there, as well as apparently it's home to a nearby nuclear facility, part of the Iranian nuclear program. And if you're trying to keep up on what's happening, it is challenging. It is difficult. There is so much out there, so many differing perspectives. And I'm having to remind myself constantly of the fact that the first casualty of war is the truth. There's propaganda on all sides. It was interesting. I was at work just yesterday and talking with a young lad, guy, Mikey, about 20 something years of age, in and around 20 years of age. And he just wanted to cut right to the chase. And he said, who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? Which I find is a typical response of people today. They don't want to dig in. They don't want to look at both sides or anything. They just want a shortcut answer. Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And my perspective, I support Israel's right to exist. And so I put Israel are, from my perspective, the good guys in this conflict. But with that being said, I recognize that Israel is far from perfect, and that they will engage in propaganda and deception. That's standard operating procedure in warfare, just as Iran and Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, Hezbollah, just as they will engage in disinformation and propaganda. This is standard operating procedure in warfare. What's happening now, what I've learned in the last 24 hours or so, is that Iran is claiming that it was 2 or 3 drones that attacked the Isfahan air base. There seem to be reports indicating that the drones themselves did not come from Israel, that the drones may have come from Iranian soil, from insurgent groups within Iran itself, perhaps allied with Israel. I mean, it's so difficult to try and, as I say, there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there. Discerning what is true is difficult. The big question, I think, that has to be asked is what's coming down the pipe? What are we looking at, going forward? And I still believe this conflict is going to escalate. I think it could be, it could be a matter of weeks. I was surprised at the speed with which Israel responded. I was expecting, everyone says, why did this happen? What's the catalyst event that started everything forward? And you can go back and back and back. So why did Israel launch an attack of some description on Iran? That was because a week ago, Saturday, so not this Saturday past, but the Saturday prior. So I guess we're talking about the 13th, April 13th or thereabouts. Israel launched an attack that hit Iran's consular facilities in the Syrian capital of Damascus. And why did Israel launch an attack on wait a minute, I've got to, this is where you try and go back. So we have the attack of yesterday on Isfahan. Why did that happen? Because Iran had a few days prior attacked Israel, and reportedly 200 to 300 drones, cruise, and other types of missiles were fired at Israel. And why did Iran send missiles and drones at Israel? Because on Saturday, I think 13th of April, Israel had attacked an Iranian consular facility in Damascus, Syria, and killing a number, 7 or 8 senior Iranian military officials, including at least one general. And I think 11 or 12 people in total were killed, including some Syrian nationals. And why did Israel launch that attack? Because of the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah. Iran uses surrogates. They use proxy forces. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis down in Yemen. So rather than fighting, going at the proxies, Israel launched an attack directly on senior Iranian military officials themselves. And so that was and you keep wanting to go back. So and why is Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, why are these groups attacking Israel? The reason they're attacking Israel is because they do not recognize Israel's right to exist. The Palestinians in Gaza, in particular, specifically Hamas, wants Israel wiped off the map from the river to the sea. And so, how far back do you want to go? Where things are right now is we have the immovable object against the irresistible force. We have militant groups both within Israel itself, specifically in Gaza, which is part of Israel. It's an occupied territory that they captured from Egypt during the 1967 war. And the West Bank, which is another occupied territory that was captured from the Jordanians in that same 1967 war. So the populations within those two groups, they want to be autonomous. They want to be a Palestinian state. But more than that, they want Israel gone as well. They want to take over Israel. Perhaps not everyone in those territories, but certainly the militant types within those groups, within Gaza and within the West Bank. They want Israel wiped off the map. And Israel is not going to allow itself to be wiped off the map. They're going to defend themselves with everything they have. They'll fight to the last man and woman to maintain the Jewish national state. So, it's that old familiar bromide of this isn't going to end well. We have two irreconcilable forces going at each other. One that absolutely proclaims its right to exist, and another that absolutely denies the right of the other to exist. And where things go right now, I think we could have a period of de-escalation. It seems like Iran is claiming, that they were able to defend themselves wonderfully against this Israeli attack. The rhetoric coming out of Iran is that the attack was ineffectual and little to no damage done. Praise our wonderful defensive forces. We were able to repel this evil Zionist regime and their attack on our soil. And it was very ineffective and very weak. There seemed to be an effort to frame the Israeli response as having been a weak response. Israel, by contrast, is claiming that it showed their capacity to reach deep into Iranian soil, into Iranian territory, and touch them without much difficulty, or any difficulty perhaps, and that it's a demonstration of their capabilities. When the attack initially took place, I was operating under the assumption, based on my consumption of the news, both from mainstream sources and alternative sources. One of the guys I listened to, many will have heard of him. His name is Amir Tsarfati. I may not be pronouncing the last name perfectly right, but Amir Tsarfati, TS. It starts with a TS. I have virtue signal side saying almost feels like governments keep tensions high enough at times between neighboring countries that they can manipulate a population reduction whenever they need. Three biggest drivers of population reduction are war, disease, and famine, in whatever order you want to put them. So where things go from here, it's difficult to say. I think we're going to see a de-escalation, but eventually things are going to blow up again. I think it's very possible that Iran goes back to the shadows, goes back to attacking Israel through its proxies, through Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. Hamas is pretty much pinned down right now. They have 2 or 3 brigades remaining, apparently, that's the reporting, in this southern enclave of Rafah. And Israel is apparently, days or a week away, or however long away, from launching their final offensive to eradicate Hamas. That's the rhetoric coming out of Israel. How successful they'll be, who knows? But I think what could happen now is that Iran goes back to operating from the shadows, using their proxies to attack Israel. I think Israel genuinely wants to draw Iran into the conflict directly, that they're tired of fighting the proxies. They want to, the expression they will use is they want to cut the head off of the snake. They're tired of facing the, going up against the tail. And so they want to draw out the head of the snake. And I think that was the justification behind their attack on the consular annex, the buildings, Iranian facilities in Damascus, Syria. To be clear, according to the Israeli side, the attack on Damascus, it was an attack on a military facility that's attached to the consular embassy of Iran, and not the actual consulate or the embassy itself, but rather a military annex. Iran, though, says that it was part of the consulate, part of the embassy, and so it constitutes attack on Iranian soil. War, truth do not go together. Lying, propaganda, disinformation, misinformation is to be expected during times of military conflict. So what happens going forward, we don't even know what's really happening right now. That's the frustrating part. And Why did I decide to live stream at such an early hour? Because I'm going to work. I'm going to work, and so I woke up early. I'm going into work for 6 a.m. And so I was catching up on the news. I woke up around 3:30, 4 o'clock, caught up a bit on the news, and decided to throw up a live stream just talking about the confusing times we're living in. That's the reason, Virtue. Just no other reason. And trying to make sense of what's going on in the world. I find when you tune into varying YouTube channels, Amir Tisfardi, you got a guy named Stacklebeck, they're all manner, and there are all kinds of channels out there, and mine's got to be the most miserable and pathetic of them all. Don't worry, I knew what you meant. The B and the N are right next to each other on the keyboard. I have the same issues when I type. And depending on whose perspective you're reading, they'll give it to you like, I know, this is exactly what's happening. This is the truth. This is, this is factual. Everything else is lies. And I read I read a couple Al Jazeera articles because I want to get the story coming from the other side. I want to hear how it's being reported to the Arab and Islamic world. And I find Al Jazeera, they present, at least their English language version of the news, is very well presented. And they have a very, there's a nice veneer of journalistic integrity to their reporting. They do present the Israeli side. They do present the Arab side. They tend to, their coverage tilts heavily towards the Arab side. They will refer to they'll state as fact the ongoing genocide in Gaza. That betrays their bias. They'll frame things as the illegal occupation, which belies their bias toward the Palestinian cause. Some view the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza as illegal. Some do not. I've said it before. I do not view it as illegal. It's war. And to the victor go the spoils. When Gaza was conquered by the Egyptians after the 1948-49 war, it wasn't an illegal occupation. It was theirs. They won it. Same with Jordan when they won the West Bank and East Jerusalem. To the victor goes the spoil. They weren't illegally occupying the territory. There had been a war, and they won that territory. Then in 1967, there was another war involving Egypt and Iran, and Egypt lost Gaza, and Jordan lost East Jerusalem and the West Bank. So they're not occupied territories from my perspective. They're conquered territories. And that's how countries get established. You conquer another nation, you take over their territory, and you swallow it into your country. That's been all of human history. That's the way countries have always been established. So I find it, but I do like reading Al Jazeera articles because it allows me to see how things are being reported from, both from that side of the argument and from the, I'll read the Times of Israel or Jerusalem Post or whoever, but good luck trying to figure this out. It's biblical where things are escalating, and how long it's going to take, probably years. Anyway, I got to go to work. I wanted to keep it short. I can go get myself cleaned up a bit, and we will see you probably tonight. See what happens over the course of the day. It's Saturday now, which is for both Muslims and Jews. This is the day of observance. For Jews, it's their the Sabbath. And no worries about the update. I think things are changing hourly, and goodness knows I could come back and there's been another major attack. Who knows? We'll talk to you soon. God bless.